Welcome to this final webinar in the series we have here on the Agora site. This one is entitled, I've given tests, let's now what? How can I use information from DLM assessments to plan and differentiate specially designed instruction for my students? So the intent of this, this next mini session is to give you some ideas of resources, and there are really a wealth of resources out there, mostly through the DLM site, that will help you make connections with instruction. So once you have begun the assessment process, the instructionally embedded process in the fall, you'll know what essential elements that you are focusing on. You'll get a sense of where on the learning maps your students are at this time, where maybe where they're working or where they've mastered. And we want to give you some resources to help you make connections and improve instruction with your kids. Now, we believe that most of you have gotten familiar with the Iowa Core Essential Elements, which we know the overall elements are available for reading, English language arts, and science. They live out on the DE website. They also live on the Iowa Core site, and many of you are focusing especially on those essential elements that are part of the blueprint for assessment, for the DLM assessment. What we want to introduce you to, if you've not used these resources yet, are the unpacked Iowa Core Essential Elements documents. And so let's take a look at what these resources are. So just thinking of some definitional kinds of things, the essential elements, we can see up here, these are specific statements. You've seen them as you've gone through the testing process of knowledge and skills, and these are the things that are linked to grade level expectations from Iowa Core. And so we know that the purpose of essential elements for our students that have significant cognitive disabilities is to build a bridge from the content from the Iowa Core standards for our students. And so those are put together by a variety of content experts across the consortium. Now what we want to look at is these documents that I think you'll find very helpful, the unpacked standards. Now these are available right now for ELA and math, and we'll take a look at where to find these, and we'll take a look at the documents themselves. But what we'll be having here is an opportunity to, when we unpack the standards from the essential elements, we identify the concept skills, big ideas, and there's also essential questions for each grade level cluster. And so this helps us get closer to the idea of not just knowing the standard or the essential element, but what do we want our kids to know and be able to do at the different levels where they may be working. So let's take a look at some of these resources. Okay, what you're seeing on screen right now are just essentially there are links in here, and in the Agora site there'll be live links to help you easily get to these documents as well. So we've got the actual core essential elements themselves for math and for ELA, and we have the unpacked documents. We're going to go right now to the unpacked documents to help you take a look at what's available there. Let's start with an example in math. Okay, I've jumped to the Iowa Core unpacked document for mathematics. You can just see the cover of the document that's available online here. A little booklet kind of a format. But let's jump to one specific essential element and take a look. Here is one third grade math area. So again, let's take a look at this and just explain the structure of this document. We've got three columns. You can see in the leftmost column, you're seeing Iowa Core. Iowa Core itself, grade level standards. So you see on this particular page, we have a couple things going on in the grouping of measurement and data. We have one standard on telling and writing time to the nearest minute. And then we have also a standard from Iowa Core regarding measurement and estimate of liquid volumes. And they are grouped together here. And then we have the second column in the middle. These are the Iowa Core essential elements. So we have a direct comparison of the grade level standard, Iowa Core itself, and the essential elements, which are areas that we're looking at through DLM. So for our third graders that we're working with, we can see two essential elements here. The first one is telling time to the hour on a digital clock, and the second one is identifying appropriate measurement tool to solve one-step word problems involving mass and volume. Then we have the third column over here, and it just gives us some good information that I think will help you in translating this into instruction for your students. So information is divided into a concept, and so let's just take a look at the concept. Measurement involves an understanding of appropriate measurement units in various situations, how many units there are in the measurement process, and of the uses of measurement tools. It breaks it down into some of the skills that you would probably find yourself teaching: identifying the hour on a digital clock, using a digital clock to identify events that are occurring daily, identifying volume as a space inside an object, identifying mass as the weight of an object, choosing measurement tools. Just lots of examples here of the kinds of skills that would be taught to match these essential elements, and therefore matching Iowa Core. We have a big idea. Familiarity with known benchmark measurements and measurement tools can help when calculating other measurements. And we have a number of essential questions that would guide your instruction when you're working with students. And we can look at those. How can I use a digital clock to tell the time to the hour? What does mass measure? What does volume measure? What are the tools I can use to measure mass or volume? What is the problem asking us to solve? What tool will I use to solve it? What unit do I use to label my answer? So you can see this is really useful. Rather than just showing you the Iowa Core Standard or the essential element, information is unpacked a little bit, helping us zero in on some of the skills that we would use in our daily instruction with kids. And again, this document, it's a lengthy document. It will include all of Iowa Core at the various grade levels, and it will break things down for math. Here's an example for fractions, and it just goes on at the different grade levels. So encourage you to use this as a tool, particularly when you're developing a unit or a lesson on a specific area. Open this up. It will give you some good ideas for instruction. Remember, this is going to include all of Iowa Core for math and all the essential elements, not only those that are measured on DLM, because we do have the idea that all of our kids should be having access to the Iowa Core, not just those areas that are measured through the DLM assessment. Now I've cut to the English Language Arts portion of the unpacked documents here, and so you can see a similar kind of breakdown. And again, I've chosen third grade just to illustrate here, and I have a cluster here of RI standards and essential elements. And I would point out the one I've chosen here happens to have several essential elements that are part of the blueprint, part of the testing blueprint for DLM. So for example, in this cluster, RI 3.1, which is answering who and what questions to demonstrate understanding of details in a text, and RI 3.3, ordering two events, would be things that you would find in the blueprint. So again, same idea. The Iowa Core itself is over here in the leftmost column. We have the essential elements of the Iowa Core specified here in the unpack. So for this cluster of instructional targets, concept is text provide the reader or listener with important information. We have skills, for example, answer who and what questions, identify details in a text, sequence two events from a text. The big idea, it is important to use key details to build understanding of text, and we have several essential questions. Who or what is this text about? What information is important? What occurred first? What occurred next? If I don't understand the details, what can I do? So again, great tools to help you as you target instruction with your kids. So the unpacked Iowa Core documents, that's the first tool that we'd like you to consider using in your bag of tricks to help as you plan instruction with your kids. And again, these links will be active and live in the Agora site. Next tool, thinking about the now what, is we would like you to be thinking about how you can use the DLM instructional information and mini-maps. So when you have planned, or when you will plan, depending on when you're watching this this video seminar, your test list that you'll be giving during the instructionally embedded testing period. The instructional information you get at that time includes this mini-map information. And so I've just pasted the key information on screen to kind of explore one right now. Then I'll also show you where you can get these maps for any essential element at any time. But the one I've selected here is what I showed you in the unpack document. Again, it's our we get this kind of chart like this, which again shows the grade level standard. This is Iowa Core itself. Then we have the DLM essential element, and so we're considering answers who and what questions to demonstrate understanding of details in a text. And again, we remember when we're giving very specific testlets from the DLM system targeting individual essential elements. So your kids will be taking an assessment specifically on this essential element. And the nice thing here in this presentation is it shows the linkage levels, and it breaks down what that skill would look like depending on the linkage level where your student is working. So let's just kind of go down the line here. Initial precursor for this skill can pay attention to the entire object, a characteristic of the object, or an action at which the object can perform after some verbal label has been attached to it. Distal precursor can recognize when he or she encounters familiar objects, places, and events. Proximal precursor can identify the concrete details, such as individual events or ideas in familiar informational texts. The target skill. So the target of this essential element is the student can answer questions posed by others regarding the concrete details of an informational text. And the successor, beyond that, can identify words or details to answer a question about explicit information presented in this text. Then, in these mini-maps, you'll also see a map version here, too, that describes various skills that would be tested in the DLM system. And you can see they're labeled here. Some of them, for example, we have one here, identifying objects, distal precursor. This one's a proximal precursor. Here's the target. And it gives you sort of a visual in that sense. Notice there's also some that have a tag of F. Those are foundational maps. We'll take a special look at the foundational maps in a little bit here. Now, how do you get to these mini-maps? Again, when you plan your essential elements to be tested in the system, there will be a PDF offer that has this information for the testlet that you're planning, but they are always available. We have links here in the PowerPoint. I'm going to take you to the selection here in a second. They are also linked in the Agora site, and these live in the educator resource portion of the DLM site. So I've cut now to the DLM site, and you can see what we've got here. We've got just the whole vast array of essential elements available where the mini-maps are available at the various grade levels. And these are all active links, and so the little segments I just showed you just came from this very first the 3.1. We were talking about the who and what questions. And let's pick something different. Let's pick RL 3.3, identify the feelings of a character in a story. So again, you get a PDF, printable, savable kind of instructional resource document that looks like this. So again, this essential element that has to do with identifying characters and their motivations or feelings. It shows you grade level core, it shows the essential element, and it breaks that down by linkage level as well. And then we see a diagram, if we scroll down, that shows a relationship of nodes in the mini-map, how this is tested. So again, you can see this segment of the map that progresses from identifying these feelings and self all the way up more to the target kinds of skills that we would be looking at. So those are the Mini-maps from DLM, remember that not only will you get them when you plan your instruction in the DLM portal, but they are available on the DLM site at any time. I took you on a brief tour showing you where the ELA ones were located, and just remember that the math mini-maps are available just as well. Now I want to take a couple minutes just to look at the foundational maps and just give you a sense of what those mean. Now I've cut to a document on the DLM site that talks about these foundational areas of the learning maps for DLM assessments. And these maps, and I can show you a visual shortly of these what end up looking like rather complex maps, this is getting into some of the foundational skill areas that some of our kids that have more severe cognitive disabilities may be working on. And so these are foundations for many of our kids that are working on the initial precursor level. Foundations that would be kind of precursors to some of these grade level expectations. So I would encourage you to look at this, and it will give you a sense of what some of the initial precursor items may look like for some of our kids that are working at that level. So things like awareness states and intentionality, developing an awareness of the environment, using intentional communication, conceptual categorization. Some of the foundations deal with iconic thinking, kind of beginning understanding of concrete objects, using symbols. And again, these are kind of organized by grade band. You can see we're moving up into the 6-8 grade band. Developing attention of the environment, making use of their perceptual skills. Basic language. We know that some of our students are not yet using traditional language. Conceptual categorization. Routines. Essential elements that require students to understand patterning in events require knowledge of routines from one's own life. So you may see some items at the foundational level that get into these routines, and you could think of those as a precursor to some of the grade level expectations that the essential elements are looking at. Otherness, thinking about others. Early language, decision making. All of these kinds of things. So this is a document that kind of explains some of these initial precursor items that appear on the foundational map. So that document that I just very quickly walked you through was this guide to the foundation area of the map. And I'm going to quickly cut to the foundational maps just to give you a little bit of a visual on what that would look like. So here's some visual of the actual foundational maps. You can see this at first glance. This looks rather complex. But again, this is the map that's representing the interrelationship of all these foundational skills and how they create a path towards the targeted grade level kinds of skills. And if you look, there's even color coding here. Blue is looking is highlighting ELA kinds of foundational skills. They have pink coded for math and yellow ELA and math. But you just can kind of see some of these examples here, kind of in this math section over here. At the top, notice what is new, recognizing the same, attending, recognizing some, recognizing separateness, recognizing a set and a subset. So again, some of your kids that have more severe cognitive disabilities that are working on that initial precursor level, you'll see testlets where these kinds of foundational skills are going to be assessed. And these, by the way, these are designed, they could be, if you would like a copy of these, they're available online, but they're designed where they could be printed on 11 by 17 paper. And they're by grade band. Here's 3-5, then it has 6-8, and then it has grades 9-12. The link for this will also be in the Agora site for your reference as well. And the next instructional resource we'd like to share is just some sources of text for you to use with your kids, familiar text, some of which will directly correlate to the DLM assessments, and others that you can just use for your core English language arts instruction. Particularly, Tar Heel Reader is a particularly good source, and we want to show you a couple sources of getting text from Tar Heel. So let's start by going to the Tar Heel site itself that we have linked here. I've cut to Tar Heel Reader, easy to find, tarheelreader.org. And what this is, it's a free open source of text, and it is designed for individuals that have disabilities. And there's just large collections of accessible style books available. You can see the two big buttons here, find a book and write a book. So there are ways that students in classrooms can actually write their own books and even contribute them, using picture collections like Flickr and those kinds of things. So with it being open source, you do have to be a little bit selective as a teacher, making sure you find the things that are appropriate for your students. But and again, each book can be speech enabled. It can be done with different interfaces like touch screens or IntelliKeys, and there's even a link right here that tells you about those sources. But up here on the right, you can see this kind of easy to see setting. You can do text-to-speech. I won't necessarily turn that on for illustration here. You can modify colors and things like that. But let's just take a quick look here. So if I find a book, we can do a search. I had typed this in just shortly ago, but you can type in anything you want. If you're looking for something, let's imagine that you're a high school student. You're looking for a modified text that might go along with literature that peers are reading. To Kill a Mockingbird. Then we could search. We would have some choices up here. Just here's one, and you can see this is the style of the Tar Heel text. Very, very visual. And again, if I had my text-to-speech enabled, you'd be hearing this read. There's several built-in voices that can be used, child, adult, that kind of a thing. So this is a style of Tar Heel Reader. Let's just go back to that search again. You could look for high-interest kinds of things and just kind of see what's out there. Again, as a teacher, you need to kind of do some screening and help your students find appropriate things. But here's a Star Wars book, potentially written by a student. Again, imagine text-to-speech could easily be enabled here, and this could be material you could be using with your students in instruction. So that was just a glimpse at Tar Heel Reading, which again is free open source text. You can take a look at that. Really encourage you to take a look at that. You may find some really valuable sources of text that you can use with your students. Now the DLM familiar texts are also that Tar Heel format, but as we mentioned in an earlier webinar, and it was the section where we were talking about getting ready for assessments, and we were talking about some of the special cases of the writing testlets. If you remember, that part of the measurement method through DLM is some students have familiar texts that they would be aware of, and they're tested through that format. These familiar texts through Tar Heel are available all the time. Let's just revisit that. So again, if you watched that previous webinar, getting ready for the writing testlets, you would have seen this. But again, these are through Tar Heel, but they're specific texts that are actually used in the DLM testlets at different grade levels. So they're linked here on the DLM site by grade level. So the things you might see here. So in grade 8, if your student is taking ELA testlets at grade 8, and particularly for some students that are working at that closer to that initial precursor level, familiar texts are going to be involved. So here's Tom Sawyer. And again, depending on the testlet being given, there's kind of associated narratives that would go along with Tom Sawyer along with informational texts. And again, if you go there, it's going to be this type of Tar Heel format as well, with text-to-speech available. Lastly, on our list here, we have exemplar text in accessible formats, also from Tar Heel Reader, and these are actually pieces of literature that align with, some of you may be familiar with the Common Core State Standards document that has an appendix of not required literature and reading, but examples of literature and reading that would align with the Common Core. And there are some of these that are available in a Tar Heel Reader format that you could use for your instruction. So let's take a quick look at that as well. So I've cut to the section on the DLM site that has these exemplar text supports, and again, these are Tar Heel text that would align to that Common Core appendix. And so if we look over here on the right, we could pick a grade band. So for example, if I pick grade band 4 or 5, we get some selections here. And again, these are titles that you would see in that Common Core appendix, and versions would be available through Tar Heel text. If I jump to high school band here, let's look at 11 and 12, even something like Pride and Prejudice, there would be a Tar Heel version, and the link would go directly to Tar Heel in the format that you're familiar with. So those are some of the exemplar text supports that are available. All these are through Tar Heel. Again, it's a free open source for text to be used with individuals with disabilities, and this actually comes through the University of North Carolina Center for Literacy and Disability Studies. Lastly, we'd like you to make sure that you're aware of the DLM Professional Development modules. And what these are video-based modules that include video examples of teaching with students, and they include materials that are very, very good. And they can be used for personal learning. They can be used with your PLCs. Some AEAs and UENs gather teachers together for learning, and sometimes these materials are used in a facilitated format as well. But we want you to be aware of them because they are available to you at any time. And so we will go there. We'll give you a couple screenshots here, then we'll go there and give you a quick tour. But these modules, they're very nice because you can sort them by DLM claim or even alphabetically if you're looking for a particular skill. So again, this would be if you're looking to improve your skills as a teacher in instructing a particular essential element area. This would be an opportunity to look at some great instructional resources. And the modules, it's a growing collection. They are put together by national experts and provided to DLM. And they can be a source to help you move towards improving your SDI with your students. They're video-based, targeting specific skills. And as I mentioned before, there may be some parts of the state where these are being done together as groups, but they're available to you right now. So the screenshot that you're seeing right here just shows you just a shot of what the site is going to look like here. For example, you get the title. So here's a comprehension technique. Here's an emergent writing module. Going to exponents and probability, you can see I've just gotten a snapshot of an alphabetical list here. Notice that you can choose online self-directed. You can just do that for personal learning. And there's also a facilitated model that would have PowerPoints, leader notes, materials that could be used with a group as well. So if you were going in to look at these as an individual, this is what it would look like. You just go in, you'd start the module, it would introduce you, it would take you through the materials, which include video modeling. Whereas this screenshot shows more of what the facilitated version may look like. So for example, for the DRTA and other approaches to text comprehension, I took this screenshot. and you would see the primary video, which is one that would be stopped at certain points for discussion and activities. And you can see how nicely these are laid out. There's a facilitator's guide for someone who might be a leader of the PLC or the group. There's a proposed agenda. There are several handouts. The PowerPoint in a non-video format is available as well. So really some very nice resources. So we have included the link to the PD site where you would find these support modules, but I wanted to show you where they live as well and do a quick tour. I'm back to the main page of DLM, the dynamiclearningmaps.org, and notice that there is a professional development tab. So far on this video series, we've mainly looked at this assessment tab to get our resources, but let's go to the professional development tab. When we do that, we get into the site. And so again, you can look at the modules organized by the DLM claim, or you can simply look at an alphabetical listing. Let's just choose alphabetical for now. And so again, this probably looks familiar to the screenshot I showed you shortly. So let's just pick one here. Again, I'd really encourage you to look at the really diverse, just to show you how many there are. There really are items that cover a lot of important essential element areas. But let's just open up one right now. The beginning communicators. So you can see there's a brief description. This module describes symbolic and non-symbolic forms of communication, the distinction between pre-intentional and pre-symbolic communicators, and identifies additional sources of support for building communication skills. So again, if I did self-directed, I would get something that looks like this, and I would just be able to work my way through the module. It does ask for first name, last name, email, school system, and state. That's primarily DLM tracking who is using these types of things. In the self-directed right now, there's not really a tracking system. You would need to keep track of what you've done on your own, but it is available for personal learning. But just back to the beginning screen here, and if I go to the facilitated module, that just gives you a sense of what the materials look like. Again, you're going to have a narrated video available, and for you could choose to go in and view in this way as well versus using the independent. I mean, this just has a complete video, but it is set up to kind of align with the facilitator's guide and the agenda, so it will have stopping points, and it will say, for example, stop, do activity 1. So it's meant to be done as a group. But you can see the handouts are there, the video transcript is there, even with slides. So for example, just very nicely designed materials. You would see something like this. It has even the text available that goes along with the slides. And the video itself is just very easy accessible. This little chart I've pulled up here just shows you how extensive this professional development library is at this point. Across the top, you can kind of see, now right now I'm on a tab that's showing math particularly. Now here's the foundational modules that are available on DLM and some of the math specific ones. So these numbers just represent the coding for each of those video modules that are available to teachers. And then over here, we see the actual essential elements. So we're looking for correlations, the essential elements of the core, and how they correlate to these different modules. So you can see just quite a resource. And we have the same thing for ELA. These are the ELA video modules that are available. This is our coding up here, foundational and ELA specific. And then we have the essential elements here, and it's just showing correlations between the two. So great resources available. Well, this concludes this module of Given Test Let's Now What. I want to thank you for listening and following along, and for your commitment to your students and their unique learning challenges. Thank you.